Hi, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Kitchen Conversations. We've got one very simple goal. Our hope is that each episode inspires just one person to get up off the couch and give pickleball a try for the very first time. And we're pretty confident today's guest is going to help us get that done. We talked recently with Adam Siegel. Adam is a self confessed sportsaholic and currently the CEO of Tennis Clubs of Canada. He's been a hockey guy, he's been a tennis guy, obviously, and we're happy to report he's finally a pickleball guy. We had a great chat with Adam about the importance of culture within the Tennis Clubs of Canada organization, and we think you're going to find his story and his passion to be inspirational and informative. Enjoy today's chat with Adam Siegel on Kitchen Conversations. Adam, good morning and welcome to the podcast. It's great to see you this morning. It's great to finally meet. We've been chatting a bit in the background for a few weeks now, and been anxious to get together with you and hear the story about Tennis Clubs of Canada and obviously some of the plans that you folks have on a go-forward basis where you see racket sports intersecting with one another in the next couple of years. And we'll talk a bit about tennis and we'll talk a bit about pickleball. So wanted to start by saying thanks for finding some time for us this morning.
Yeah, no, thank you for the invitation. Happy to be here and always happy to share about the company.
Yeah, I love it. I'd love to start with a bit of your background, and then I definitely want to jump into the story behind Tennis Clubs of Canada and how Terry got things going, the beginnings, the first dome, the work that you do with different municipalities across the country. I've had a chance to get online and watch you in action, the city of Niagara Falls. I watched that presentation, and I have to tell you, Adam, as a guy that spent 35 years in sales, that presentation was airtight. It
Thank you.
was really well done. I'm sitting there trying to find a reason not to vote yay, and I can't. Like you
Thank
guys,
you.
although I do want to say I think one person may have gone that route, which
Yeah.
confused me a little bit, just a little bit, because it was just such a great presentation. I hope we get a chance to talk a bit about the process that you go through
Mhm.
personally when you're looking to expand and talk to municipalities and the integration of all that. But yeah, before we dive into that, can you give me a sense of your background personally, professionally? Where did sports start for you as a
Mm.
young boy, and how important does that remain in your life today? So if you don't mind, just walk me through that story.
Yeah, I will. I'll start with saying, yeah, one of our core values of our company is passion for sport, and so on a personal level, yeah, I grew up. I was a hockey player. I did the obligatory Canadian hockey participation. I played about 8 years. I was actually a goalie. I was so short that in my first year, you could shoot over my head and still score under the crossbar. So, yes, but loved hockey as a young kid. And then I actually, my brother started playing tennis. He's a few years older than me. And I started, so I guess he was around 11, I was 8, and started playing and instantly fell in love with tennis. And, that became kind of the backbone of my sporting experience growing up. Obviously, I enjoyed doing other sports as well. I'm a sportaholic. And it was something I played as much as could, but it was reserved, especially kind of where we were growing up, at that stage of life. It was a spring, summer opportunity to play, and there was a club, and especially in the summer, I'd take the bus down, or my parents would drop me off, and I would just kind of sit there and play all day and live the kind of tennis bum's life at the clubs. That was my intro into it, and yeah, so tennis has always been a big part of my life. And happy, obviously, now also to, we can talk about it a little bit more later, how we've evolved into pickleball and other opportunities as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the hockey thing's interesting, is I mean, it's sort of the old Canadian thing that so many families get tied into in the travel. But I think the cost of that today, Adam, is certainly different than it was, when I was young. It was, I was born in 67, so I'm 59. And, I look at the rep hockey and the levels that these kids are plugging into it today. And it's a different game than it was, 30
Yeah.
years ago, for sure. I mean, it was still, there was a lot to it back then, obviously. But being a goalie, you were in high demand. I mean, you're the guy everybody's looking for, especially in the pickup leagues. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Who wants to play? I'm not sure I could play it anymore, but yeah, it's been decades.
Yeah, what are you
Yeah,
doing at 11:30 on a Tuesday? We need a
yeah.
goalie, so yeah, good for you. So you fell in love with tennis. What was it about tennis, Adam, that you think hooked you so early? Are there similarities? Would you draw parallels between perhaps it and pickleball? Because I think for us as pickleballers, it's that instant addiction, that magic moment that so many of us talk about. Did you find that with tennis, that it was the first time you picked up a racket, it was just, this is me, and it was a good fit?
It's really interesting to reflect on almost everything. That's a great question. I've never actually really reflected on. The moment, though, what strikes me is that what I love about pickleball and why it aligns so much with our company, I'll start there, is the social aspect. So, the purpose of our company is to positive impact physical, social, and mental well being of the community. And to me, that is pickleball in a nutshell. It's exactly how, and then to draw the parallels to my experiences growing up. Did I pick up that racket and instantly fall in love with the game? I mean, it's obviously a number of decades ago. It's hard to say. But what I can tell you, again, the influence was my brother, so I did what he did. But as I mentioned, I belonged to this club. And my experiences when I think of my childhood playing tennis all centers around the experiences both on and off the court. Spending all day there, as I said, hanging out, making new friends, jumping on the court, jumping off, watching professional tennis, getting inspired to go on the court and try and do exactly what they did. So I think the parallels there, as we're speaking through this, and it was a great question. Uh, is that, yeah, I think it's, and this is why to me that purpose is so important in the company. And we do this with tennis as well, but pickleball, just I think it has it baked in from the get-go. It's so much more than just the hitting the ball, the being on court and finding physical benefits. It's the community. Again, it's a big word for us in our company. And it's experience. I say this, we just had a semi-retirement party for our director of development after decades of working together. She's going to stay on coaching, but she's no longer going to be in the admin side of things. And we had a wonderful retirement party for her. And you're just looking around and seeing again the community, people smiling, people having a good time. We were actually talking about it yesterday. So I'm not sure if I digressed a bit off that, but I think just important to understand, where my heart is, and how that kind of permeates throughout the organization.
Yeah, well, it's great. I think the culture in an organization, Adam, certainly is the core to it. We had a small family business for a number of years, and culture was incredibly important to us. And creating that culture and nourishing it and protecting it. I think there's a excuse me, a responsibility to protect that culture once you've built it, and when it's working and it's delivering the results that you're looking for, whether it be Tennis Clubs of Canada or our small family business. It's pretty important. So, yeah, I think that community side of it. I've always said about the game. I started with pickleball probably 3 years ago now. It was that instant connection to the people. And I've always said, I like the game and I do a lot, but I love the people. And as I'm heading to the pickleball club, it's more about who might be in the social group that morning as opposed to the game itself. And the score at the end of that game is really unimportant to me. That's not really what I'm there for. That's really terrific. Thanks for sharing that. Your background, your educational background, how does it lend itself to what you're doing today?
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I actually did my undergrad in psychology. I was ready to do my master's in health psychology to the point that I can still envision this flashbulb memory in my apartment. My shoes are on, my jacket's on, my application envelopes are in my hand. I'm looking at that door to go mail them, and I had an epiphany and said, I don't want to do this. I was fortunate enough that I had done well in school, and it was seemed like the next logical step. But in the meantime, I had been coaching part-time tennis all through university, and I literally opened up those applications, got to read some of the review letters from professors, which was kind of interesting. But I made a pivot in that moment. So did that. I don't believe that directly my education helped me in the path. Probably, an interest in psychology and philosophy in general and human nature. I'm quite analytical. I think, lend well to both, operating a company and being in psychology. but I'd say it was almost indirectly where my education took me. And, I sort of said, I don't know what I'm going to do all of a sudden. I mean, here I am. I was, how old was I? 23, 22, somewhere around there. And I guess I'll just start coaching part time at this club, Parkview Club, which, by the way, happened to be part of a set of clubs called Sports Clubs of Canada. And just so you can see the influence they have. But what I can say, if not digressing too much on this, is that my experiences more working are what shaped the culture that you mentioned. And by the way, you're right, culture is everything. It's something I'm very passionate on researching right now at the moment. And I really got to experience that community mindset at Sports Clubs of Canada. I mean, these people that we work with became my family. I loved these people and the members, and it's such a wonderful experience. And then when I moved up to, pre-Tennis Clubs of Canada days, but, the initial clubs under the now umbrella of Tennis Clubs of Canada, I got to experience that as well. And, working with, at that point, for Terry Redvers, the founder, I got to continue that experience of why it's just such an amazing, fortunate opportunity for anybody in this business, if they see it through this lens, is that you get to work with people who want to be there. Never forget that they are choosing for maybe 1 hour up to 5, 6 hours a week of their spare time, say, this is where we want to be. What a privilege, what an honor, what an opportunity. So that is, again, my whole life working, I've been able to work with under people like Terry that were very supportive and, kind of taught me the ropes and showed me the ropes. And yeah, that's here I am embodying all of that.
Wow, you framed that in a really fascinating way, and I really appreciate your thoughts on that today, Adam, because that's a great way of looking at it. People have choices, and they only have so much time, clearly, and they only have so much money in which to invest in that time. And I think when someone chooses you to spend that time and that money with, and to come out and enjoy that and engage and build community, I think that's it's a real compliment, and I think it's something that it's refreshing to see that that's a focal point for you as well. I think a lot of businesses miss that point periodically. They forget that there's a lot of places to buy, a screwdriver. And if I go to your hardware store to buy it, I've made a decision. And, it would be nice if I felt that you understood that. So, yeah, good on you guys. Can we dive into a little bit about Terry at this point and maybe start to segue into how this all began all those years ago and when the first dome was built? And I'd just love for you to run with this story. I'd just like to open the floor to you and just let you kind of give us the backstory on Terry and his involvement. Obviously, you hold him in very high regard, as you should. And I've done a bit of research, obviously, prior to coming into the call, so I have a sense of Terry's involvement, the important role he's played in all of this for you folks. But why don't you run with that for me?
Yeah, so Terry was essentially the architect of public-private partnerships with municipalities with air-inflated structures, or we often call domes or bubbles or air-supported structures. So back in, I think we are now, to do the math, about 47 years ago now, Terry approached the town of Newmarket and basically on a handshake deal said, let's, run into this partnership together. There's this kind of bubble type technology. We can put it over these courts. And he put it up over a 3-court facility there. And, there are challenges, ups and downs, but, he made it work. And, humbly speaking, we're so proud to be able to say that every club that we have opened, with the exception of Newmarket, but there's a caveat there, is still open to this day. The only reason Newmarket closed 2 years ago is because the town actually repurposed the land for a hotel that was in desperate need there. So that was a founding club. But a few years after Newmarket opened, Terry then opened Blackmore Tennis Club. And that's where I started, actually. So he opened that in 1989. And from there, Terry, a few years later, opened up a club in Midhurst or Barrie area. And then from there, I started to get involved. We have to look at the exact date. I should know this, but I think it's 8 years ago now. We decided that let's look at something bigger. Let's grow. Let's grow across the country. And this is, again, 8 years ago. So we, that was the brainchild behind Tennis Clubs of Canada. We created Tennis Clubs of Canada. We are now at 8 total facilities, all in Ontario. However, we are excited that we not only have been running program for the last year or so in Dorval, Quebec, as we are working on different locations for a bubble there as well. Most excitingly right now is this fall, we are opening up our first location, bubble location in Kelowna, BC. So we're at 9 locations. Thank you. And if we look at across the board, we also run many kind of satellite locations. So I think total locations, we're at about 17 locations where we are running some form of programming. So it's a small team, but it's a busy team.
Yeah, it gets a lot done.
Mm,
Well, Terry's legacy certainly is
mm,
something that, I think, maybe missed on the average client that comes into one of your facilities, maybe doesn't understand that history, but the important role that it plays and how much of his, can I call it a sales pitch perhaps on that initial setup, Adam, how much of that becomes part of your agenda when you're meeting with municipalities? Are you
mm.
still relying on a bit of sort of Terry's foundation to that and how he went in and said, this is what's good about what we're doing and how it serves the community in a positive way? Are you still drawing from some of those experiences and when you talk? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, although things obviously evolved, and certainly over the years, you know, procedures and processes and policies, especially around procurement, have tightened with municipalities. Approaches are a little different, but the foundation of what it is we're trying to accomplish, what Terry created from day one, is still the backbone of what it is we try to do. So it's still the same approach philosophy to go to a municipality. And we talk about win-win-win approaches, right? So why this is great for the municipality, first and foremost for the residents. And that's our approach. We understand that we're there to service the residents of that community through partnerships with the governing bodies that are also tasked to do the same thing. So we have the same objectives. And so we bring our experience, expertise, resources, and often funding to the table. The city, has the authority to be able to put these together. So we win, they win, and then most importantly, the community wins because they have these services that, again, around mental, physical, and social well-being. So absolutely, in terms of Terry's approach and the philosophy behind this, that still rings true to this day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, I love the legacy of it all, and I think it's just such a
Mm.
great story. And when people walk into one of your facilities today, Adam, what's the sense? I've never been there, pretend, and I've walked in for the first time. What is the experience that you're hoping happens in that moment, in that first initial visit into
Mm.
one of the facilities that Tennis Clubs of Canada is running across the country?
So I'm going to give you a virtual walkthrough. I like it, Mike. So basically, it's funny, and I'll start with the overarching, and I'll, work backwards a little bit. What is the objective? You said, what are we hoping to accomplish? I mentioned to you previously about the retirement party we just had, and the experiences of looking around and seeing what's happening there. One of the other arms I'll just touch upon a little bit. We have a travel arm of our company. We've done some pickleball trips, tennis trips, and what I do there is, again, I always looking around and trying to take in the energy too. Are there smiles? What are people feeling? Now, we bring that to, walking to the club. What I want them or anyone on our team to be able to convey, both directly, indirectly, consciously, unconsciously, is that when you're joining Tennis Clubs of Canada, whether it's tennis, pickleball, or any other activity, again, you're embedding in the culture. Let's get back to culture again. What separates us, what we strive to do as our competitive edge, is our integration into the TCC community. So that doesn't mean you're forced to do anything you want to do, but you know, often can be very difficult to integrate into a club. That's again what pickleball is so great, because it's immediate integration. You don't just go out and try and find a partner. You can join a program. And that's, again, pickleball is all about programming, and that's what we're all about. So Terry's foundation from the beginning was around programming, and that's where we really hang our hat. So there's always going to be opportunities. We ensure that we integrate you well so that when you join, you've got a place to be, a place to go, and people to connect to at all times.
Yeah. That's great. It's perfect. It's interesting. I joined
Mm.
curling this year, Adam, for the first time.
Ah,
Never threw a rock in my life. So, I joined one of the local clubs in town. You've got kind of two
mm,
options. And so I pick A over B for a couple of reasons. But, those first
mm,
couple of weeks there, you're a bit nervous. You're a new member. You're trying to figure it out. There's this group over here, that group over there. I hate to use the word, but it can be a bit clicky in some of these operations. And
100%.
so to hear you say that, it's great. I can echo this as a client. I mean, I walked in there when the Kingston operation first opened. We were playing at an alternate club and volunteering and helping and learning the game. We just started, but we knew of David, his reputation locally on the pickleball. When you talk pickleball, you can't talk pickleball Kingston without talking about David Boussier. So I just wanted to go meet him. I love people and I'm curious and maybe a bit nosy sometimes. So I thought I got to go check this out. I want to see the facility. I want to meet him. So, but from the moment that my wife and I walked in there, we were welcomed. We were given a tour. Things were explained to us. So, it's great to hear you say that, but I can also tell you that it's happening. We can sometimes say this is the corporate culture. This is what we're trying to establish. I can tell you firsthand it is happening. So congratulations on all of that. And yeah, at the risk of embarrassing him, because you may hear this at some point, and he doesn't take compliments well, which most of us don't. But he really is a great ambassador for both the facility, for the organization, and maybe more importantly, the sport. He really is a huge advocate for the sport of pickleball, which I
Yeah,
think is
thanks.
great.
If I could jump on that and echo your sentiments, David is special. David also is, you know, indicative, represents exactly what we're just talking about on that culture. One of our other core values, as you're speaking, that just came up, which is, arguably the most important for me, is sense of belonging. So what you just said, when you walk into the facility, it's so true what you mentioned about a little bit of anxiety. Anytime we go somewhere new, we talk about this often when we plan out events or like our summer camps, for example, is, when parent walks in, the kid walks in, the very first impression is key. They're just coming in. It's just human nature to feel a little anxious. So if you can disarm very quickly with that welcoming, you're here, we've got you. And David is just amazing with that. There's just a few things of, yeah, if I can just take a minute to toot his horn, is as well, is that what he does is exactly what you're saying. You come in, first and foremost, I think you get struck by David, which is one of the most important qualities to me in a human being, is his authenticity. You know that David isn't selling for the sake of selling. David is trying to share opportunities because he truly believes that he has things for you that are going to make you have an improved quality of life, getting back again to well being. And so he loves what he does, as you said, Mike. And I think you feel that. I mean, I'm a big believer in that. And so, yeah, I just wanted to reiterate and say David's special. And we're really, really fortunate to have him at
Yeah.
Kingston Racquet Centre.
It's fun. I'm a curious person by nature, Adam. I love,
Yeah.
when I get there to check in, I always go early. If I'm playing at 11, I'm there by 10:15 usually. I just like hanging out there. So it's a good thing,
Yeah.
why
Oh,
not?
good.
And I'll
Yeah.
wander around, I'll watch this game, I'll watch that game. But
Mm,
one of my favorite moments
mm,
is, David will be on the court periodically with a group of beginners, first time players, a learn to pickleball type session. And I always wander over. I always wander over and kind of horn in on it and say hello. And he and I chatted about that, and he loves that. He enjoys that I come over and say hi to some of the new players and tell them that they've just made the biggest mistake of their life because they've now become fully addicted. You're fully addicted now.
the dark side.
The dark side
Yes.
of pickleball is now taking
Yeah.
over your life. So
Yeah.
good luck with all that. But
Yeah.
it's a fun moment for both of us. We enjoy it, and the podcast is really about just trying to spread the word about the sport specifically and racket sports in general, Adam. And I just see such a benefit for my wife and I, and what it's done for us socially, mentally,
Mhm.
physically. It's getting us out of the house, off the couch. It's if you will, that third place to go and spend time with people that we enjoy spending time with. And yeah, so to watch him in action, it's really something. And yeah, I can tell you that, from that first visit and then ultimately joining and becoming a member and playing very regularly out there at this point, everything that you've said is certainly happening and existing, here in the Kingston facility. So give me a couple give me some insight into operating a facility like that, Adam. And What's the biggest challenge in this type of a structure? One of the interesting moments, the first time it happens, is when you're in there in winter and gets a bit warm and the snow comes sliding off the roof. It's a pretty fascinating moment. It's fun. Everybody kind of stops for a sec, whoosh, and that noise it's really cool. So I enjoy playing in there. The space, the volume, the ceiling height, obviously is it's terrific. So what would one of the challenges be, or a couple of challenges that maybe the average member wouldn't understand about one of these types of structures?
Yeah, I think the obvious place to start is on the uniqueness of the structure itself versus a permanent structure. So we're talking about a building that's being held up by air, so literally an air, supported structure. Understanding the nuances that go behind that technology, from your kind of main fan that runs all the time to your backups, which we do, frequent testing on. So we have, redundancy on the backups as well. There's double backup systems, and knock on wood, in case there's a failure there. We've never ever had a tennis facility go down, so that's something we take pride in. So again, fortunately, we have a team of incredible experts. We have one of my partners, Terry's son, Trevor Redvers, also has a construction group called the KTS Group, who's partners with a couple other guys. One of them is our director of operations, and they have a level of expertise that is second to none. So we're quite fortunate to have their team on. We have everything automated, cameras, digital alarms, all sorts of incredible things. And so, always staying vigilant, but at the same time gotten to the point where it's not a concern in terms of our ability to ensure great operations, and not worry about that type of stuff. I think the other challenge, just on a pure business level, is we have we've scaled quickly, and we have really strong operations. We really have a good model. That said, we're always tweaking. We're always asking, why won't this work? How can we be better? And I think that's some of the major pride I take in our team. The challenge is we're a small team, right? There's a few of us on the senior level, and as we grow, it's just, and I've done a lot of research over the last few years on scaling, and it's just the normal challenges of going from a one level company up to the next. I think that's where we're feeling it. That all said, and I talk about this a lot, the team, there's the normal stressors that come with that type of work or any work. But in spite of all that, it's every day. I love our company so much. Like, I just absolutely get excited. And again, it gets back to culture, you're saying before, Mike, and our team. When we say to each other, we're a family, we don't throw around that word loosely. When I talk about with my team, I love you guys, like, we really feel it. These are people we've been with for many, many years. So normal challenges of an air support structure, a lot of challenges of scaling, but zero doubt. I mean, literally, I say that without arrogance. I say that not zero doubt that things won't go wrong or go sideways, because they always do. More importantly, it's what happens when they do. We have such a solution-oriented team. Things go wrong, it's a quick into,
Yeah.
all right, what's our solution? Let's
Sure.
go.
Let's go. Let's go.
So
Yeah.
empowering and inspiring to be amongst these incredible people. So
Yeah. Well, I
yeah.
appreciate that. And the reason I want to draw you into that conversation at this point, Adam, was just, I think you've built the culture within the club. We've talked about that. I feel it, as a member when I walk in there. But I think the structure itself is part of the culture, if that's
Mm,
fair to say. I think it's a unique environment in which to go and play tennis or play pickleball or play volleyball and to gather with people. And I think there is something about the feel of those structures that is uniquely
mm,
different. And so maybe it ties in nicely to the culture and the commitment that you've made. So was interested in what are the challenges of those types of structures, and the integration of that into the general feel, because I think a building, no matter whether you're talking a museum or you're talking a restaurant, the ambiance of that, the lighting, all of that really factors into you as a
mm,
player and as a
mm,
member. And it may be subconscious in so many ways, but I've been in different clubs across the province over the last couple of years since playing, tournament here, tournament there. And you can play better in an environment in which you feel comfortable. There's no question. And so,
absolutely.
I
Mm.
feel very comfortable there. And so, yeah, and we come, and maybe I should have prefaced this by telling you that we come from the HVAC industry. So we're into air movement and
No, so
airflow and air
you,
quality control. And so, I'm a little maybe more geeky on that than the average
yeah.
member of tennis clubs of Canada. But to recognize the engineering behind those structures,
Yeah.
and then trying to translate that into the experience that I have as a player. I was just interested to see what you thought of that. So thanks for sharing some of your thoughts
Yeah.
with that. Yeah, very unique environment and completely different, and maybe part of your brand equity in so many ways, I would say, going back all those years with Terry, it certainly is identifiable, almost like the golden arches.
Yes. It is. There's a couple things though. There's actually an article, it was in the OTA years ago, called The Bubble Boys, that was written on Terry, Trevor, and myself. And so exactly identifying, the connection between the bubble. Obviously others do it, but Terry was the founder, and it is our system right now. It doesn't mean we would, you know, opposed to potentially doing a perm structure. But the reason why, and why I think you really hit on it, why it's a connection. One of our objectives, corporate objectives of the company, is affordability and accessibility. So everything we've done from the we call them PPPs or P3s, partnerships with municipalities, is again understanding our role here. Our role again is to provide services to the community. In order to do so on taxpayer assets, we need to come up with the most affordable, accessible way possible. And an air supported structure is the way to go, because the capital costs could be anywhere from a third to half of, if not a quarter of, a permanent structure. So it would become almost financially not feasible to do a permanent structure with our model, in the sense that pricing would not be able to provide affordability and accessibility, which is what we are. So I agree with you. There is a connection between that experience and who we are and what we offer the community.
Yeah, that's great. And so, Adam, on a go forward basis, you talked about Kelowna. Congrats on that. It'll be exciting. Is every facility that you're looking at today a combination of tennis and pickleball and perhaps multi sports like volleyball? Is that just part of the commitment going forward? And was that always part of the plan for Kingston? Was pickleball always on the radar for Kingston when you folks started to consider it as a potential partner?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we evolve again, I guess, like the sporting world does, and pickleball, first answer is, yeah, everywhere we go, we incorporate pickleball now to all our new facilities. So we have them in Kingston Racquet Centre, Niagara Falls Racquet Centre, CK Racquet Centre, which is Chatham. As you can see, we're now using racket. I know it's not technically a racket; it's a paddle, but just at least not saying tennis. Kelowna is more tennis focused. There is the opportunity to provide pickleball if there is open time. But ultimately, yes, we want to do that. And again, we're open to providing more sport opportunity. We're, in Kingston, as you know, in the, we call it the Pickleball Dome, but there's 4 volleyball courts there as well. So we can do other sports. And it really does get back to, again, how can we provide benefits to well-being? So when we're speaking to municipalities, why would we limit ourselves? Again, we get back to also legacy talk. Right, actually, it's okay just to steal a moment to talk about legacy. Is, from my perspective, and this is why I take such great joy in seeing the joy all around, and your story makes me very happy, by the way, is that it's tennis is just a vehicle, pickleball is just a vehicle. They're vehicles towards well-being. So municipalities, why would we limit ourselves on just one sport when there's many other activities? We're really now growing to a point to say, how can we assist you? What recreational activities? Terry and Trevor have also run multi-sport soccer domes for years as well. So we're not limited. I mean, one of the things, just kind of joking on air right now, we have certainly initial talks around, okay, Tennis Clubs Canada is a bit of a limiting name with the word tennis in there. So we're working through. But ultimately, yes, our approach is to service as many segments, recreational segments, as possible going forward. And clearly, pickleball, as I mentioned before, is so aligned with everything we are in our values and our vision and our purpose.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a really fun chat with a fella in the UK maybe a week ago now, Adam, and we were chatting about the game. He runs a fairly large Facebook group page called Senior Pickleball Tips, and his name is Patty Hunter Murphy. Just a fascinating guest. But we got talking about the appeal of pickleball. What is it about the game that really draws people in so quickly and keeps them hooked for life? And he made a point I'd never thought of, and it's the length of the time it takes to complete a game. So you jump into a social game at KRC as an example, and you're in and out within 12, 15 minutes, and then you're sitting on the sidelines waiting for the next rotation, or you're just going to the round robin sheet to figure out where am I going, what court am I on next. But so many other sports, the length of the game takes up the bulk of the time that you have to be there. But with pickleball, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out, you're chatting, you're talking in between points. So I think that was an interesting perspective that he
Mm.
has. And, so when you look at the culture that you've built here locally and beyond, I think that is perhaps one of the ingredients to the success of not only your company, but the sport in and of itself. It was a great perspective.
The dynamic nature of the sport itself, as you're saying, it's not just a static go out there do the same thing for an hour or two. There's a lot of modes to that experience. Yeah, it's a very interesting point. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, when you get into a round robin situation, I mean, I think yesterday I was playing with the Kingston senior group and we were running 4 courts at KRC yesterday, so it was a pretty good group. Nobody on a bye, so everybody's kept going, but it's a lot of people. You're interacting with them and I think that makes an impact on your impression of the game and it just wants you to come back the next day and do it all again. So, yeah, that's terrific stuff. Let's, watching the clock and being very careful here. So maybe try to get you off here in the next 10 minutes or so. But what do you see as the biggest threat to the sport of pickleball specifically, and perhaps tennis at the same time, Adam? I heard about a new game called Tiptee the other day that I think Steve Bellamy has launched to, I think, started the tennis channel many, many years ago. But it's a variation on tennis with a larger ball and a smaller racket. So just starting to look into that and hoping to learn a bit about it. Paddle or padel, depending on which side of the country you're on. I'm actually talking to the gentleman on Friday who brought the game of paddle to Canada in 1992 and set up the very first paddle court in the Calgary warehouse. So that'll be a fascinating conversation on Friday. But do you see racket sports competing against one another or complementing one another? And on the heels of that, I'd like you to think about this one as well, and maybe bake it into your answer. But we get there's a lot of publicity here in Kingston about outdoor pickleball and the noise that it's creating and the pushback from those residents. And I'll be quite frank, I don't want a pickleball court in my backyard. It's one of those not in my backyard things. So again, part of the purpose that you serve as Tennis Clubs of Canada and putting these inside of the air structures, it takes away a lot of that concern. But there's a lot of headbutting going on in Kingston and has been for a couple summers now, and we're about to get back into it. The snow's melting at a rapid rate, thankfully, but what that's going to mean is the outdoor courts are going to come back online here again shortly. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether racket sports are competing or complementing in helping grow the sport and get people off the couch, and also your insight into these outdoor court debates that are happening.
Yeah, I mean, those are always like the top issues when we start talking about racket sports, pickleball in particular. I'll start answering with the question of complementary versus contrary or challenging sports. We're of a mindset always looking for opportunity, and I remember having a really great conversation with the previous CEO of Tennis Canada around this, and we were both completely aligned with you get these camps and everybody gets kind of into their echo chambers and their vacuums of how they see things. So you get your tennis camp. We don't want these pickleball people. We don't want their lines. We don't want their noise. Pickleball people, we need some space. This is not fair. And it's just, okay, well, let's sit back and see. Not only can there be a coexistence, which I think we've shown, there can be so many synergies created too. What's amazing about pickleball, and I've said this for years, tennis missed its opportunity. Pickleball just filled the gap. Pickleball filled the gap of easy entry to racket sports, low barrier, and now all the incredible other things we talk around the social elements and so forth. But you can, respectfully, even if you're not a great athlete, you've had no experience, within a very short period of time, you can enjoy pickleball to your level. Now, tennis has done a really great job over the years with certain kind of starter equipment and beginner type equipment to make the game easier, condensed court sizes, smaller nets, and easier balls and so forth. But in terms of actually creating, I want to play this sport right away, which pickleball does, pickleball absolutely filled the gap. And that's why I think you've seen it grow and grow and grow. I don't believe it is a trend. I don't believe it's a fad. Eventually the growth will taper off, but I think it's here to stay. And I don't think with tennis that it conflicts. It's complementary. The only challenges, and you've alluded to, sound and permanent lines are typically the two big ones. So again, we look, as I said, we're very solution oriented. So we look at how can we do this? So we have, Kingston, for example, we just built 2 separate domes, no problem. Other locations like Niagara Falls and Chatham, we're experimenting with some different technology right now to make that easier. I don't want to speak yet because it's early stages on what how that's working. But we these are challenges. These are logistical challenges are mine, and it takes the right attitude and the right creativity to say these are not conflicting with each other. And so we have no problem with them going forward. And then in terms of, and I think in terms of the sport themselves, again, tennis has a wide range of market in terms of pure beginners, like pickleball, but again, takes a little bit longer to get up to a playing level, all the way up to, really great athletes and anything in between and different ages and backgrounds and so forth. Pickleball is, can obviously get up to a high level as well, but I think it's that quick, you know, easy access to enjoying a sport right away. So I don't think they conflict. I know so many people play both. I'll say padel, by the way. I always have these battles. So I'm like, it's padel. And so I'm not sure if you're aware as well, but our fourth partner in Tennis Clubs Canada is Milos Raonic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when Milos was one of his injury stints, he was actually playing padel this a few years ago, and he was telling us about it. We're like, how are you playing when you're injured? Anyway, I researched, fell in love with this. It is a sport we are definitely interested in adding as well, because again, it gets back to don't look at it in your style. These you can have racket centers, and what I think is really great is I'd almost say as respectful as I can. If you put tennis in the middle here, and you put pickleball to one side, so, okay, really kind of low barrier to entry, and learning curve is quite low. And then you've got a padel. It's a little bit more of an athletic, challenging sport, and you're probably not going to see people playing pickleball and padel together at like 20 hours a week or whatever. You're not going to see serious both. But I can see tennis overlapping with padel and tennis overlapping pickleball. So there's almost like a sequence in here. And the reality is padel outside of North America, which I don't think people realize is the fastest growing sport in the world. Pickleball is in North America, but outside North America, it's all padel. But I'll wrap this with saying is, yeah, from our perspective, we just see opportunity. I think in terms of the noise, again, let's put our solution-oriented hats on. I know there's different paddles being made now for noise, dampening, balls, all sorts of opportunities. Us as builders and, facility builders need to look at those opportunities. So no, Mike, I don't see long term with the right people in the
Yeah.
decision making roles this being a problem. Just get
Yeah.
creative. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. There's always
Yeah.
an answer, Adam. There's always an answer. And I think the other side of it is you're not going to keep everyone in the camp happy. And that's a reality of life. We had a small company, 55 employees, I guess, spread out across 4 locations. And we always knew the ownership group always appreciated, respected, and understood the fact that there was always a percentage of that they aren't going to be on board with 100% of what we're doing, and depending on the topic of discussion that day, that number can shift and change. So we start talking about communities, and we start talking about noise, and we start talking about involvement. It's a complicated situation, but appreciate your insight into that. I think as a final thought, before we wrap up, Adam, I think the game for me, to talk specifically pickleball, since it is a pickleball podcast, if there's an inspiring moment, it's when you get, on a court with someone that's 75, maybe even 80, and you lose to them, and you lose to them. And you think to yourself at 59, that inspires me because I want to be that person at 80. And that's, I think, for me, the magic. It's getting off the couch, and we need to get people off couches. We spend too much time on couches. And so we need to get people out and being active and being socially engaged. There's a lot of loneliness today for an assortment of different reasons. And I think pickleball, tennis, community, that third spot fills that void and really does help mentally and socially. So I think the game for me and the appeal it has is the longevity opportunity that's there. We're not playing pickup hockey necessarily at 74. And if we are, it's a bad idea. But we can realistically play relatively competitive pickleball at 74, 75. And I know a number of people here locally that would fit into that age bracket. So, in my late 50s, looking down the road at wanting to be healthy, wellness, eat well, get 10,000 steps a day, make sleep a priority. These are all things in my life that are important to me. Pickleball really fits into that in a really nice way. So, yeah, it's a great sport. Well, congratulations on everything that you've done, that you're doing, the culture within the organization, the people, the front facing people that you have here in Kingston are phenomenal. And I appreciate you acknowledging that this morning. They'll be thrilled to hear that, I'm sure. And yeah, I'm going to keep a close eye on things. I'm excited about your growth and your future. And yeah, and this technology that we're not talking about that you're testing, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out down the
I'll
road.
come
So
back when it's ready because it would
yeah,
make
there's
it.
a secret now. I love secrets. They're fun. It keeps people intrigued. So yeah, Adam, before I let you go, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on with us this morning with respect to any of this?
I'd like just to wrap from my end, just again, on the spirit of what you're indicating around, you hit it on the head on the well-being, and I appreciate you saying you're sharing your personal story. I'm 52, and I'm in the same stage of my life around health and sleep, food, working out, and then the social sport. I'll wrap with this on a personal story. I have a gentleman that I only play 1 hour a week of tennis right now. And by the way, I have started playing pickleball
Good.
as well with some buddies.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome. And I already played even a tournament. So, and I loved it. I
Oh,
love it for
wow.
the record. In fact, I should say the surprise birthday party for my wife and I at 50 years old was pickleball night with our friends. So there you
Well,
go.
there you go. There you go. I
Yeah.
love it.
Including the CEO of Tennis Canada coming to play pickleball. So,
Yeah.
okay.
See? How does it get
Yes,
it can't get any better than that. It's not possible.
exactly.
I
But this
love it.
gentleman that I've been playing tennis with every Saturday morning for 29 years in a row. So we've been, he is now not only obviously a good friend, he's my old doubles partner. Uh, he is an investor in some of the clubs as well. It gets back again to, our vision for our company is to create players for life. We may want to change that to, bringing one of our core values as well, which is building relationships for life. And so all I was saying, that's an example just on the tennis side, but we talk about year after year, and getting back to what you're saying is you're looking forward to playing pickleball forever. 29 years in, and almost every single week we leave, we go, man, I had more fun today than I did last week, and last week and last week. We enjoy it more than ever as we get older. And it gets back to that theme again, is look around, look at and feel the energy, look at the faces around you. I take a lot, you said you take a lot in, you look, and it is just, it's so wonderful to be part of. I feel so blessed to be part of something that's going to provide this to, society and the well-being overall of the individuals within it. So I applaud you on what you're doing. And best of luck to you, Mike, on this. I'm happy to support, and certainly on that specific, something more on the pickleball, and how we're doing something different in the facility. I'd be happy to jump on again. Thank you for having me on, and I wish you nothing but success with the podcast.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. Kind words. Yeah, it really was a passion to start to meet the people behind the paddle. I think the game is there and we understand the game, but there's some fascinating people that live behind the paddle. And as we're courtside and we're chatting and they're sharing some of that with me, I just thought somebody needed to do something. And I couldn't find anything, close at hand that was kind of trying to go down that pathway, and to just, there's a lot of pro tips and paddle reviews and products and gears, and there's and people doing a great job of that, by the way. And it's a necessary part of what we need to have out there to support both tennis and pickleball. But I was having a hard time finding, a podcast or a show that was willing to talk to the people about their story and what drew them into the game. So yeah, so thanks for this morning. It's been enlightening. I knew it'd be a great conversation, and it has been. So thanks for all your time this morning.
Thank you, Mike.